support a tool, idea, or lesson plan that supports Common Core. Okay?
Or
and so,
education in general.
No, Common Core. Okay? So when you're voting, try to keep that those parameters in mind as well. No, you can't shut the mic. So those were the parameters, and I think Mr. Jason Knifer from Montana Digital Academy is going to go first, followed by Mr. Wesley Fryer, followed by myself, and then Jeff is going to be last. Okay? Any questions? All right, here we go.
Yes. Yeah, who's got the timer? Who's got a timer? 4 minutes.
Are you already scared that we're going to go over?
4 minutes.
Social studies teacher, lecture. Yeah. You know I'm awesome. I've got a timer on here. I'm going to speak to it. So, I've never done anything in 4 minutes in my entire life. Okay, my name's Jason, and I'm a former social studies teacher. I'm now a digital school administrator, but I have a vision I want to share with you. We're going to start off with the notion of Sweden. You've probably been around the country of Sweden before on a map, or maybe you've been to Sweden. I want to introduce you to a family that's close to my in-laws. It's a family from Sweden. And they're here for 2 weeks in the beginning of July, and I learned 2 really interesting things from the people from Sweden. The first one is that the notion of helicopter parents is universal, but they have a special name for it in Sweden. They call it curling parents. And if you know the sport curling, curling is basically where you throw this big, heavy thing called a rock, and people scrub in front of it so it goes as far as it can. And they call helicopter parents curling parents there because they do the exact same thing for their kids. They scrub things so it's absolutely perfect for them, so nothing ever goes wrong for that kid. I thought that was really interesting. But the second thing I heard that was really interesting was that they had 3 children, an elementary student, a middle school student, a high school student, all of them spoke at least 3 languages, and the high school student was working on a 4th. And I was ashamed on the part of the American educational system, because sometimes we have barely time to teach in 1, let alone 2, 3, 4, and 5 languages, even though that we know that because of language and early child, kids can learn 4 or 5 languages if we start early enough. So what I want to tell you about is not these kids from Sweden, I want to tell you about me. And in the case of me, I have way more time than that. So, as it turns out, I'm somewhat of a victim from this. I did not take a world language in high school. I could not roll my R's, so senior Anita Crouch decided that she wasn't interested in having me in a class, so I had to take an extra science class that year. As it turns out, I was terrified to leave the country until I was 26 years old, and I lived with a lovely lady here on the right, who's my wife, who's turned me into somewhat of a world traveler. But one of the reasons why I was so terrified is because I was scared that I would never know the local language, that the language barrier would be enough to prevent me from doing things. Let me tell you, I might not be a social studies teacher anymore, but I can tell you something that's absolutely true. Travel is transformational. Travel changes you in the way you think and the way you view the rest of the world. As it turns out, there are applications you can utilize now that help you with that process. And I want to show you 2 very quickly. Now, you've learned about Google Glass. I'm not going to show you that now, obviously, but that's part of what's referred to as augmented reality. You can create something around you that changes the way you interact with things. So I think of this in terms not of augmenting reality for the purpose of giving me information about restaurants, but what can this application teach me about my surroundings in a way that's going to make me less scared to explore? So there's language apps. The language apps are awesome. This one's called Say Hi. It's exactly what it sounds like. I can type in, oh good, it's typing out already. Hello, where is the nearest train station?
Здравствуйте. Где находится ближайшая железнодорожная станция?
That is what's the nearest train station in Russian. But it's more than that. You can also take applications that also change the way you see things. So for example, I have 4 Spanish signs up here. I don't read Spanish other than ordering beer, but I can walk up to it. You look really carefully. This is translating on the fly this sign into English. That sign's in Spanish.